Williams just dropped a truth bomb, and it changes everything. While every team was pounding laps in Barcelona, they stayed silent. No testing. No lap times. No explanation. Now we finally know why. And the reason is way more terrifying than anyone expected. The new FW48? It's not just late. It's 3 times more complex than any car they've ever built. They couldn't finish it. They ran out of parts. And if they had tested in Barcelona, one crash could have ended their season before it even started. This isn't a delay. It's a full-blown crisis. And the shocking detail they just revealed might be the key to understanding whether Williams is about to collapse or pull off the boldest comeback in modern F1. At first, it looked like nothing. Just another launch day. Crisp visuals. A shiny new livery. 2 drivers saying all the right things. But the moment Williams revealed the FW48, everyone watching knew something was off. Where was the testing footage? Where were the performance numbers? Where was the data? Every other team had been grinding through Barcelona, logging laps, analyzing stints, simulating strategy. But Williams? Radio silence. And when they finally spoke, they didn't hold back. James Vowles stood in front of the cameras and said the one thing no team principal ever wants to admit in public. We missed testing because we weren't ready. Not even close. In a sport where every millisecond counts, they had fallen weeks behind. And the reason? Was buried deep inside the car's design. Because this wasn't just another season for Williams. The FW48 wasn't built for safe progress. It wasn't designed to maintain position. It was built to break the cycle. But what they created was so complex, so demanding, so far beyond what they'd done before. They couldn't even finish it in time to turn a wheel. Not in Barcelona. Not anywhere. Inside the factory, the problem became impossible to ignore. Williams didn't just redesign the FW48. They reinvented how the car works. This wasn't an evolution of last year's chassis. It was a clean break. New active aerodynamics. A far more aggressive hybrid layout. Completely reworked cooling paths. And electrical systems that had never been integrated at this scale before. Every department was pushed at the same time. And that's where things started to crack. Because each new system depended on another one being finished first. The aero couldn't be validated without the cooling. The cooling couldn't be finalized without the energy deployment layout. And the energy system couldn't be signed off without full chassis integration. Everything was connected. Which meant one delay created 10 more. Suddenly, parts were arriving late. Assemblies were being rebuilt twice. And components that should have been finalized weeks earlier were still changing days before Barcelona. At that point, Williams faced a brutal reality. They could rush the car, bolt it together, ship it to Spain. Or they could stop, take the hit, and admit the truth. Because sending the FW48 to Barcelona in that state wouldn't have been testing. It would have been gambling with the entire season. A minor failure, a small crash, one cracked component, and they wouldn't just lose a test. They could lose Bahrain, Melbourne, and months of development. So Williams made the call no one else was brave enough to make. They stayed home. Not because they were hiding pace. Not because they were playing games. But because the FW48 was too ambitious to be rushed. And that decision is the detail that explains everything. It wasn't just about lap times. It wasn't even about missing setup data. It was about something far more serious. Durability. Behind closed doors, engineers were clear. The FW48 could theoretically run. The systems were functioning. The sensors were online. The electronics were wired. But the structural integrity? Not battle-tested. There were components on that car that had never been run. Outside of simulation. Suspension arms that had only seen test benches. Cooling lines mounted in new locations, exposed to forces they'd never encountered before. And the carbon? Brand new layups. Unproven under repeated stress. Thin in areas where they took weight-saving risks. James Vowles put it plainly. If we had suffered a crash in Barcelona, even a minor one, it would have cost us weeks. Not hours. Weeks. Because the spares weren't ready. The molds were still hot. The backup parts were still curing. And the production line was running non-stop, just to get a single chassis across the line. So imagine the nightmare scenario. Albon goes out on day 1. A gust of wind. A snap of oversteer. He clips a curb, damages the floor. No replacement. No backup. Test over. And the first race? In doubt. That's how close they were. So when Williams chose to stay behind, they weren't protecting a secret weapon. They were protecting the one car they had managed to finish. And that's why the world needed to hear what Vowles said out loud. Because this wasn't just a delay. This was a car that almost didn't make it to the grid at all. While the rest of the grid was pounding laps in Barcelona, Williams turned inward. They went all in on a system they call VTT, Virtual Track Testing. Now, VTT isn't just a simulator. It's not a fancy video game. It's a full-scale digital replica of the car, with real-world mechanical stress models, dynamic aero simulations, and complete systems integration. In simpler terms, they were testing the FW48 without ever starting the engine. Every electrical pulse, every throttle map, every temperature spike in the cooling system, simulated, logged, analyzed. James Vowles described it like this: "We killed a lot of demons before the car ever hit the track." And that line matters, because for a team that's missed miles of real data, VTT might be the only reason they're still in this fight. Through that system, they fixed flaws in the energy deployment strategy. They caught overheating issues in early brake duct designs. They adjusted flow structures to balance the new hybrid architecture, all before a single corner was taken in real life. It's not perfect. It can't replicate tire wear. It can't simulate dirty air in traffic. And it can't teach the drivers how the car will feel in full race conditions. But what it can do is buy time. Time they desperately needed. And now, they're using that time to prepare the FW48 for one single shot at redemption. A filming day. 200 kilometers. Private. Controlled. Quiet. But for Williams, it might be the most important track session they've had in a decade. Because if that car fails then, it's all over. But if it doesn't, everything changes. For years, Williams has survived. Barely. They've been stuck in a cycle of rebuilding, hiring new talent, switching philosophies, launching cars that were outdated before they even hit the track. And every season followed the same script: start slow, struggle for points, hope for rain. But now, everything feels different. Because what Williams just did wasn't survival. It was defiance. They knew what skipping testing would look like. They knew the headlines, the doubts, the whispers that they were falling apart. And they did it anyway. Because this car, the FW48, is more than just a machine. It's a message. A statement from a team that's done playing it safe. They built something bold, aggressive, flawed, maybe, but theirs. And when James Vowles stood in front of the world and admitted how late they were, how close they came to missing it all, he didn't sound embarrassed. He sounded proud. Because finally, Williams has direction. They're not fighting for 10th anymore. They're fighting for relevance, for respect, for a future. And that means taking risks that smaller teams usually avoid. Because if this gamble works, if the FW48 holds together, if the performance is buried somewhere beneath all that complexity, then they won't just survive Bahrain. They'll leave it with a future worth fighting for. When the FW48 rolls out of the garage in Bahrain, it won't look like the fastest car. It might not sound like the strongest package. It won't have Red Bull's track record, or Ferrari's hype, or Mercedes' infrastructure. But it will have something none of them can copy: guts. This is a car born from tension, built in chaos, and finished under pressure no other team had to face. And while the world laughed, doubted, dismissed, Williams kept building. No excuses, no shortcuts, just a team trying to climb out of the shadow of its own history. The FW48 is a risk. No one's denying that. It could fail. It could break. It could fall short. But if it works, if they cross that line in Bahrain, and the data holds up, if Albon and Sainz get a car that responds, that fights, that finishes, then this won't be a story about a car that missed testing. It'll be the moment Williams stopped surviving and started rising. Not because they got lucky, but because they made the hardest decision in Formula One: to believe in something no one else could see yet. And when the lights go out in Bahrain, we'll find out if they were wrong, or if they just lit the first spark of the biggest comeback in modern F1.